Okay. Hello, hi, welcome to the Iskandar Property Talk. This is Aaron here, and this episode is sponsored by Horizon Hills. So this property talk is really special because I think this pandemic, has really changed the way how we consume media and even property viewings. And in today's video, we will actually be educating about property because property information isn't so readily available, like cars or tech. So today we want to bridge this gap. While you can watch this from the comfort of your home. Stay safe, guys. So very quickly, we want to do a general shout out to Horizon Hills, which is sponsoring this episode. They will be giving 100 ringgit Horizon Hills Golf Country Club, and there's also some free gift of Ryan School's book. And before I introduce this guest today, I just want to share a little bit because when I was interested in property back then, I do attend some of his seminars and some of his events, and I would have to say I do learn a lot, from him, and also his Facebook group, Malaysia's Investors in Singapore. And also, fun fact, he's also the author of one of the two best-selling books for Iskandar. What's the big deal with Iskandar Malaysia, and are you in Iskandar too? So let's not waste any time, and let's welcome Ryan Koo. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Evan. Good day.
Hey Ryan, hey, what's up?
Yes.
Good day.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. So, like what you said, this is the first time I'm doing a video that we are in two different countries. You are in Singapore. I'm in JB, Malaysia, and we are doing a Zoom
social
video.
Social distancing.
Yes, social distancing to.
But this is a bit extreme,
A bit extreme, yes. But no choice, right? That's the way it is today, right?
Yep, it is. So maybe for those audience who do not know about you, maybe you can tell us more about yourself and what do you do?
Yeah, okay. My name is Ryan Koo, and I am a Malaysian. But I'm a Singapore PR, and I've been in Singapore, JB, since 2009, so actually more than 10 years already. So I'm very familiar with Singapore and Johor. And what I do is I run a couple of companies. The first company is Alpha Marketing. We are a consultancy to owners and to developers on property. And I also run an Airbnb company, a short-term rental company called IMBnB, where we manage about 60, 70 keys in
Interesting.
And we also run an interior design company called FY Design. We help owners to furnish their houses, whether dream house or any other requirement.
Wow, very diversified, right? Yeah, very diversified.
A lot of things, but they're all JB and Singapore related. Most of our clients are Johor based or Singapore based.
Right. Wow.
And the most important thing, which I haven't mentioned, is of course I'm a owner and a resident in Horizon Hills today.
Hey, that's good. Yeah, I think we will talk more about that later. I think maybe some of us will be probably interested, probably why you actually make your purchase in Horizon Hills. So we do have quite a number of questions. So for those who are listening, if you do have some questions, please do leave in a comment below, and we'll probably address it in the comment section or probably in our next live version. But really, thank you. Shout out for those who has submitted the questions. We really appreciate it. Yeah, so we will probably start from the easy questions until the hot topic.
Please ask questions. You make difficult questions also. Never mind. I live to
Ryan
answer
can handle
the
it.
difficult questions. Yeah, I can handle it. Yes.
All right. Like a lot of positivity. Yeah. Okay, so let's get on to the first question. I think probably we get to know you a bit more. Like, how do you first started in this industry? So when you first buy your first house or / investment, what are the tips that you would encourage when you actually buy your first property?
I bought my first house when I just got out of university and I started working. That was the year 2007, right? And that time my first property was actually a 3-bedroom condo in KL. And I bought it for about 300,000 ringgit only, actually, those days. Yeah. So
wow. Wow. You can't find that price anymore.
You can't find that price anymore. And then the second property I bought was actually a studio apartment, 158,000 only in Bukit Bintang. Actually, it's pretty much Bukit Bintang area.
Bukit Bintang. Oh, it's actually pretty central. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
And I got a rental yield of like 9%. I think you cannot hear that. You can't hear that kind of number today lah. Today you tell people 9%, people think it's a scam. Right? Yeah. So, but those days, I got 9% yield, and nobody believed me. I told my colleagues, I said, I bought this property, I got 9% yield, and then people don't believe. And those days, it was like property was not a favored investment tool yet. I mean, we just come out from 1997.
Yep, that's
Asian
true.
crisis,
That's
right?
true. I
So
was about to say that.
after
Yep.
97, 98, right? A lot of people were like, recovering, the recovering years. So until
Exactly.
the recovery period, right? Easily, 5 years, 6 years? So by 2005 to 2006, right? I think people, economy has recovered, right? And property is attractive, but no one really there to buy it. So I think the issue with property is always like this. When it's time to buy, nobody wants to buy. When it's the wrong time to buy and everybody is buying, then you also want to buy. There's people have this what in Malay we call terbalik. The mentality is reverse.
Terbalik.
It's a kind of a fear of missing out, right? So nobody's buying, so you don't want to buy. Everybody's buying, you also want to buy. So I think that's where a lot of mistake happen in property investment.
That's true. That's true. That's true. So yeah, guys. So one of the first tip: don't rush into buying. Do your own research, right? So Ryan, what would you change? I mean, I believe everyone does mistakes. Do you have any property? Do you make any mistakes in any property investment?
Yeah. So I think I have made mistakes. I mean, definitely I've been doing this since more than 10 years, property investment, right? And I have definitely made mistakes. I'm the first one to admit that. Okay, and I think the number one mistake I did was when we saw the market rising very fast, all the way until 2013. My mistake was that I also got into the trap of people buy, so I also buy. So without
Right,
considering
right.
whether the price I'm buying is correct or not. So
Is it
it's a
fair?
fair price,
Yep,
right? So
you're right.
you don't know, you pay an overvalue price. So I also made that mistake in that period, 2013, 2014. I bought properties also where probably too high a price for the time. So I think that's one thing people have to consider when you make investments. So like I said earlier, don't get caught in the emotion of buying just because
and
everybody
get educated.
Yeah, just because everybody else is buying, you also buy. So that is a very dangerous mistake.
So maybe another question. Actually, what got you interested in Iskandar region for all of the places? What got you interested in Iskandar?
So when I first moved to Singapore in 2009, of course, my first few years in Singapore, I just watched the market, both in JB and in Singapore. And after you live in Singapore for many years, you start to realize that actually there's a lot of synergy actually between Iskandar and Singapore, right? Because Singapore it's an expensive place. It's very expensive. Houses are small. And JB, you have the opposite situation where prices are cheap, houses are big. And same thing with cost of living, right? Cost of living in Singapore is high, cost of living in Malaysia is low. So to me, it's like it's very wasted opportunity, or there's a very big opportunity. Sorry, if you go into JB and Malaysia and JB, Iskandar and Singapore can solve each other's problems, right? And I was the first to notice that. Okay, maybe I won't say I'm the first to notice that. I saw that as a very big opportunity, and actively I try to bring these two zones together. So that's where I saw opportunity in Iskandar, Malaysia, right, to do it. Yeah, and especially when in those times when the governments announced the RTS linking Woodlands to JB Town Centre and the high-speed rail from Jurong to Iskandar Puteri. I think that is to me you can see the intention to bring Iskandar and Singapore closer. And okay, to put it in layman terms, Singapore got 5.5 million people, earn Singapore dollar. Okay. So that's like if you convert that to ringgit, that's like 15 million ringgit. 15 million population kind of spending power. 15 million ringgit worth of spending power, right? And and Iskandar today just is sitting next to it, so we can take advantage of that.
Yeah, I do have to agree. It's actually a very unique relationship between Johor and Singapore. Even myself, I'm working in Singapore, so there is definitely a very unique relationship ties between these two countries. Yeah. Okay, so let's get on to with our question. I think there are a lot of buyers also, with the property market. I think these days there's so many options available, right? There's so many type of property types. You got your studio, you got your apartment, you got your condo, and then you got your landed and things like that. So maybe you can explain to the listeners a bit what how does the landed versus condo living experience differ? What's the difference?
The way I look at it, there's no right or wrong, right? But if you buy a landed, what you're looking for actually is space and size, right? And if you notice a landed property versus a condo, it's actually cheaper per square foot most of the time, a landed house, right? And compared to a condo, right? And furthermore, you get the land, you buy the land, right? In a condo, you still have to share the land with many other owners. So when you buy a landed house, that's what you're looking for, right? When you buy a condo, my advice is you buy somewhere there is a location and there's a convenience factor. That means downstairs you have transport, you have shopping, right? Literally downstairs. So if you buy a condo and a landed, these are typically the two things that you want, that you're looking for. That's why you buy. So in a way, it's wrong if you buy a condo which is too far away with no amenities, then you made a mistake. Right? If you and you made a mistake if you buy a condo which is too far away in a non-mature location, then that's wrong, right? With no amenities, right? And then if you buy a landed, of course, the issue is you have to get the correct layout and sizes. That's very important. So I think Horizon Hills in particular is one of those success stories that has happened in Iskandar in the past 6-7 years. So
they're one of the pioneers, right? They're one of the pioneers in this Bukit Indah region,
correct,
right?
correct. Actually,
so?
if I'm not wrong, Horizon Hills' first house was first development started in around 2005, and that time when they sell terrace house, right? If I'm not wrong, the price is like from 250,000 ringgit. Yeah, actually, a lot of people don't know this. So when they tell me, Ryan, can make money in buy property in Iskandar, I think part of it is about time frame, right? Those days when people buy 250,000, 300,000 ringgit in Horizon Hills, nobody buy. I mean, if you buy, you are pioneer, right? That time Bukit Indah also don't exist, right? There's no Bukit Indah in 2005, 2006. It's a very, new, very new place, right?
Wow.
So that time you buy, you enter, you make money, right? Of course, if you buy later at the price peak, when prices start to peak, right? Then of course you don't make as much, or you only break even, right? But so
you gotta pay a higher price, lah.
Yeah, you pay a higher price. So sometimes it's all about timing, right? Timing, and in that sense, Horizon Hills is one of the pioneer, and I think they've done a very good job in building the community and keeping it going.
Yeah, this also actually leads to the next question. So we have one of the comments that's saying that, so they are contemplating whether should you stay in a landed, which is in a much further area, which probably has a lower quantum price, or versus a high-rise apartment or condo in a city area. What are your thoughts about that?
Actually, regarding the question, actually the answer is all about traffic, car traffic, right? So give you an example, like in KL or in Singapore, right? If you live further away from town, right, then the problem is when you go to work and your job is in town center, right, then it takes a lot of time to travel, right? So that's why there's a trade-off. So sometimes people in KL, you buy an apartment or a condo nearer to town, where you don't have to travel so much. So that's the you pay you buy a condo. That's a trade-off, but at least the trade-off is you get a shorter travel time to work, lah. Otherwise, the trade-off is you buy a landed house further away from town, but then you have to travel further to go to work. So there's a cost there also. So what happens is this is the problem in KL, and also the problem in Singapore, right? So if you stay too far from town center, you have to take MRT. It's a further distance, right? Otherwise you pay more, go nearer to town, right? So same thing. So the travel time of traffic. So in JB, I think, or in Iskandar, the good thing is, at least today, traffic is not so big a problem yet. Well, there are many more cars today, but also the highway and the road network here has improved a lot, right? So the good news is
that's true.
So you can still buy a landed house where it's in a way so-called a bit further from town center, but you can still go to work quite fast because roads are still very good, right? The quality of roads are very high, and the traffic is less. So in a sense, landed has the advantage in JB, where even if you buy a landed so-called further away, traffic is still not so bad, right? So if you want to buy
so it's actually more worth it, it's more worth it to buy a landed.
Yeah, in that sense, if you consider landed is more worth it, right? So if you want to buy a condo instead, then you must make sure your location and your convenience is very, very good to offset that, right?
Yeah, that's actually very true because I think the infrastructure. I think when I came to JB quite some time back, I think the highways at nearing to the second link, I think nearer to Tuas is a four lane highway. While I think the main the old custom, the EDL was about 2 or 3 lane. I'm not mistaken. Yeah, but yeah, I guess you're right.
I was a university student in JB. I went to UTM in JB when 1999 to 2004, and I can tell you those days there was no such thing as Bukit Indah. I mean, and second link is second link to us is like it's a very very ulu, very far place. You don't even want to go there. Don't know how to go there. Also, it's like a very very odd space. So today it's very different. Yeah.
Next question, we just want to give a shout out again to Horizon Hills. So just guys, do remember like, comment and share to stand a chance to win a 100 ringgit voucher by Horizon Hills Golf Country Club, and as well as some of Ryan's books. Yeah, so do remember, please do ask your questions. We will address in the comment section or either in our next live session in the following week. Yeah, I think the next question, one of the questions for you, I think, what are the things to look for when you want to buy a terrace, and any tips? Because I think the listeners for those who submit the questions, actually there are a majority of them are actually first time homeowners, and they're looking to buy their first house, and immediately I think they were also looking options at condo versus landed. But let's talk about landed a little bit more. So what are the things to look out for when you want to buy a terrace?
I mean, if you want to buy a link house or terrace house, I think the most important, of course, is layout and facing. Also, you can say facing. Sometimes in the Chinese we say buy a house. The best facing is of course the north south facing, right? And layouts, of course, the regular layouts, right? The squarish rectangular layouts where the rooms are all rectangular and I mean maybe easier I show you on the floor plan, right? I can share screen, right?
Oh, sure. Please do. Yes.
How do I? Okay.
Yeah.
Share screen. Okay. So over here I have.
Yeah,
can
I
you
can
see?
see.
Yeah. So over here. Over here we have the floor plan for, I think, Horizon Hills' latest Westwood Superlink houses, right? So these are 24 feet by 75 feet. And if you see the floor plan, right, you can, I think they also mentioned this in some of the Horizon Hill videos, right? So you can see it's quite regular. And you have 1 room downstairs, 3 rooms upstairs. And the good news is if you see downstairs, there's a foyer wall. So sometimes you have families who want to have an altar or things like that.
And that's actually a good point. That's actually a good point.
And the good news about a 24 by 75 layout is normally you can have a dry kitchen and a wet kitchen, right? And a wet kitchen. Sometimes the small layouts you can't do, the yard is not big enough to do a wet kitchen. So in this layout you have a proper dry kitchen and a wet kitchen, you can do it. And then the other thing is, of course, if you look at the rooms upstairs, all the rooms are ensuite bath. So each room have their own bath, right?
Right.
Yeah, and if you consider these houses are only starting from like 900,000 ringgit and above, right? Per square foot, right, is cheaper than a condo in most cases, right? I think in all cases, I've yet to see a landed house where per square foot is more expensive. Per square foot is more expensive than a condo. So
that's true.
Correct, and you get a lot of space, right? You have the family hall, you have a storeroom, 1 downstairs, 1 storeroom at the back. So there's a lot of space to use, right? So and generally the reason why people buy houses like this, right? If you ask me, right, Aaron, why, if I'm working in Singapore, why must I buy a landed house in JB? I think the reason is a lot of right sizing. Sometimes you get married, right? You have kids, right? And a Singapore house might not be big enough, right? For you.
You need a bigger space.
Yeah, you need a bigger space, correct. Sometimes you are those people who travel in and out of Singapore, JB to work. Right, so you want your children to enjoy space, so you buy a landed house in Johor for them to stay, right? Sometimes people buy these kind of houses for parents, right? I know a case. I have a colleague, right? Her father is from Penang, so she bought a place for her father in JB, because sometimes after you work in Singapore for so long, you don't want to go back. You don't want to go back to Malaysia. Don't want to go back to Penang.
That's actually really true. That's actually really
true.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Malaysians after you work in Singapore for like 5-6 years, I think it's quite hard to go back in a way. Right, so the one solution is to bring the parents down. So we have seen that multiple times. So JB is a place where you can buy a place for your parents, and your parents may not want to stay in Singapore because they're not used to the lifestyle. Yeah.
That's true.
So you put them in a house in JB where you can do all the things. So when you have 4 rooms, right, in a landed house like this, it becomes very flexible for usage, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at the layout right now, I think they're all like perfectly shaped. There's no weird corners. I think they even accommodate the size to put for the wardrobes. Yeah, I think.
And you can
looks
build
pretty a very clean layout. Yeah.
very clean, and I think this is where we say layout is important, right? Because sometimes we have seen in other houses before they have odd layouts, right? Odd corners that sometimes they have a kitchen in the front. I've seen that before. You enter the house to straight see the kitchen, which I think is a very bad layout. Or you enter the house to straight see the stairs.
The staircase.
That's also a bad layout, right? There are a lot of examples of bad layouts, right? So a best layout is always something like this, like what you see in the screen now. This is always the safest layout, and you will not go wrong in this kind of layout. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So guys, this is really a good example of a link house layout. Yeah. Thanks for the tip. Thanks for the tip, Brian. Thanks for the tip.
Actually, talk about buying landed house, right? I think another thing I want to say is that we also have this scenario, right, where Singaporeans buy house in JB, right? And the reason why they buy is because, again, in space, right? I have a neighbor behind my house only, right? He's a cyclist, cycle. Right, so he bought a house in JB just to cycle only. He put a bicycle. He has 2-3 bicycles there. Those very racing style bicycle, and and he cycles.
Yeah.
I have another friend who has a house in JB, from Singapore. So he comes every weekend to send the children to badminton because badminton training in Malaysia is very intensive. we produce world champions, ma. So Singapore track record.
Our dear Dato'
Correct.
So
Actually, if you come and see a Malaysian intensive badminton training, it's very high quality one. So sometimes he realizes the kids will learn better if they play in Malaysia. So he send the kids he come to JB every weekend to do that. So there's a lot of reasons why people come to JB and use their house for what purpose.
Yeah. So it's no longer just pure investment. There are actually a mixture in culture, and people actually do come to Johor right now for different reasons, right? For own use.
Yeah, I mean, other examples, of course, is the most popular one is buy milk powder and buy
apart from that.
And medicines, things like that. In Malaysia, groceries, these are very common. There's a reason why the border is jammed every weekend. I keep telling this to people in Singapore, right? You say, Malaysia no good, no good, but why the border jammed?
There is a reason. Yes.
People see value, and people come over for the value.
That's true. That's really true. So I think moving on, let's go on to the tougher questions. I think our viewers do have some burning hot questions. I think this is one of them. So one of these listeners, they do ask, as a new or future homeowner, buying a property can be challenging during this time, especially during this pandemic. So the question is it a good time now to buy a property?
If you look at it from a property cycle perspective, right? Malaysia probably had a up cycle from maybe 2005 until 2013, right? And currently Malaysia down cycle has been since maybe 2013 all the way until now. So it's roughly about the same time. The first up cycle is about 7-8 years. And now also we are roughly about 7-8 years down cycle already. So if you ask my opinion, we are at the tail end of the down cycle. It will last maybe this year, maybe next year. It depends a little bit, but we are somewhere at the end already. I mean, so the good news is, another signal to see is that government has relaxed a lot of cooling measures, right? And they have things like home ownership campaign where they try to encourage people to buy. They tell the banks to give you 90% loan to Malaysians for the third property, right? This is new things, right? And then they try to waive stamp duties and things like that for buyers. So I think the reversal of cooling measures is a signal. And then of course, bank have cut interest rate, right?
The low interest rates right now.
Low interest rate, like those days, right? If you buy, Malaysian interest rates have been about mortgage, right, has been about 4% for a long time. Now it's 3%, and it might be that it will drop to even 2% later this year because government trying to stimulate economy, right? So we might see even mortgage rates drop to 2%, which is a very low deal. I mean, 2+% is like almost Singapore. It's barely 1% over Singapore interest rates now. So I mean, it's very low there. I mean, and I think all these are to encourage people to buy, right? And as I mentioned earlier, if you ask me if you are Malaysian working in Singapore or Singaporean say, hey, why must I buy Malaysia now? I said the deals are as we get. I mean, maybe I sound very marketing for trying to say this, but I mean the deals have really
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
It has really been better this year compared to last year and last you know, and the deals have gotten better and better. So I think to me it's like I don't even know how to get better already. To get better already, maybe the developer also margin will like maybe don't make money already. And then, because the other thing you must consider is a construction cost. Construction cost has not gone down, right? Despite we say property price is high, construction cost has not gone down. Today, to build the same house, today compared to 10 years ago, the price has gone up a lot, right? And even the developer also scratch it. Sometimes we say we want the developer to sell the house cheap, but the developers are thinking how to build a house cheap. That the construction cost is already like this. Right.
And also I heard in Singapore also they actually have to pay now additional fee for the swab test for COVID. And I think,
correct. And after
developer
COVID,
has to bear
correct. And after with COVID now, there's a lot more regulation and things and
that's true.
For
that's
testing
true.
for workers. So all the costs are gone. So even in Singapore, we realize this is also a problem. Construction costs in Singapore actually is also very high, and it's difficult for the same developer in Singapore to build cheaper and cheaper, right? Something has to trade off, right? And then normally people complain if I trade off this, then the house quality no good, and things like that. So to build a quality house in Malaysia today, it's not become cheaper. So there's an inflation effect, right? So my point is, if you can afford it, and considering now very likely we are towards the tail end, this is a good thing to buy, right? Another signal which I think is very important for property buyers is maybe it's a more macro signal, right? Is that the RTS, which is the MRT linking JB to Woodlands, seems like very likely they will sign by end of this month, right? Today the Malaysian ministers came out with a statement, even it came out of Singapore Straits Times also, to say that that they're quite close to signing, right? And the high-speed rail, we will know by December 31st this year end. So I think there's a lot of positive news that should be confirmed in the next few months or few days or few months. And if all that happens,
sounds great. Sounds positive.
So I mean, we maybe reach the bottom and start to move up already, right? I mean, of course, we cannot guarantee all this, but I mean, to me, there's a lot of signals that says.
But there's good leading indicators, right?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Okay. Next question is also about during this pandemic, with most of us staying at home. What are your thoughts about how does the property market change for homeowners, who buy for own use, and probably investors market in the Iskandar region?
During the pandemic, I think especially in landed house, we start to appreciate our house more, because if like during the lockdown, right? I was at home with my son, my wife, one maid, and my mother-in-law. So there are a lot of people in the house, right? But at least the house is big enough. The house is big enough to secure everybody. Right, I was
corner.
if I stay in Singapore at the time, right? I jialat. I tell you my two-bedder in Singapore, how to fit so many people in the house. That's why you have all these stories about domestic stress increasing during the lockdown.
That's actually really true. That's actually really
correct.
true.
So in my house in Horizon Hills, I have space to do my work. My wife has space to do her work. There's enough area to share. Right, I think this is one of the stresses in Singapore today. Right, sometimes you don't realize it. The place is too small, then you feel stressed. Right, in Singapore elections, this is one of the key issues. Right, that people in Singapore don't want 10 million people in Singapore. They feel that it's too many people, right, on the island. So it's an issue that Singaporeans feel that space is not enough. So you buy a landed house or you buy any house in JB where it's generally cheaper for the per square foot that you get, right? You don't feel so stressed, right? We have actually I have a couple of Singaporeans during the lockdown. They prefer to lock down in Malaysia than to lock down in Singapore.
Actually, interestingly, we do hear that kind of news because I think before the lockdown was announced, a lot of Malaysians choose to work in Singapore because they have to choose either they have to earn or they have to stay in Malaysia unpaid, right? But most of the Malaysians come to live in Singapore to continue to work. And interestingly, like you said, there are some Singaporeans also who choose to be locked down in Malaysia, right?
Lockdown in Malaysia at least is not so bad, right? Yeah. From an investment perspective, of course, everything is slowed down in this period. But I think if you look at Iskandar area, the past few years actually the majority has been driven by Korean. A lot of Korean people in Johor.
Interesting. Koreans,
Yeah, if Korean culture is very strong, young people all like K-pop and stuff. So, so even you see, if you, I don't know whether you notice it, you see my makeup. See, we have a thick eyebrow. Today the makeup artist gave me a very Korean K-pop style look. Right, so. Young people like it. I mean, this Korean thing. And today JB, of course, like I said, there are many Koreans and they are renting, whether landed house or apartments. They're renting in Horizon Hills. They're buying in Horizon Hills, right? And they have been the biggest people in this area, right? I think if you talk about Korean, I can talk another 1 hour. I think if you want to talk about Koreans, I know them very well. Yeah, really.
That's true. Yeah, because we do see an influx of Korean restaurants, and in Johor, I think there's quite a number of them in Johor right now.
Yes,
yes. I do have to agree with that.
Easily, I was told 2,000 over families, Korean families in JB right now. Yes, and this happened in the past couple of years.
So would you agree that I think for landed house, I think not even landed, I think in every home, I think the quality of life at home is actually really important.
Yes.
Do
yes. I think we in the pandemic time, you start to appreciate the quality of like I said, a landed house space. As mentioned, it's very important. You need space to do stuff. I give you an example in my house, which I think if you want to see Ryan's, maybe you all should come and video my house. One day.
Hey, we can arrange for that next time.
ask whether they want to do it. Come video my house one day. Because I designed it okay. I mean, I didn't spend so much money like this. But this show house we're in is very nice. But I did my ground floor bedroom. I actually opened it up. That means I don't have a bedroom downstairs. I knocked down the wall and I turned it into like I don't know, a study or second living hall in a way.
So a dedicated zone, right?
Yes. So I don't have a bedroom downstairs. I actually open up that wall. So I mean, if a landed house, you got a lot of options to do things like this, right? Each room can have its own purpose. And
but for I think condo, it's pretty much there, right?
Yeah, condo sometimes is tough. You cannot really modify the layout too much. But I mean, in a landed house, you have definitely much more flexibility to do it, right? Yeah.
That's true. Okay. Okay, so interestingly, this is also another question. I think this also I'm also pretty curious. Back then, I think 5 or 6 years ago, Iskandar was very different as compared to now, right? Iskandar now. So what are your thoughts about buying a good mature township versus a new launch in today's time?
When you buy a mature township, the good thing is you can see how is the condition of the location. Like for example, whether house occupancy, right, of the place, whether do people stay here, right? Is it really easy to buy groceries and entertainment? Are they all available to you? When you buy a new launch, you always have that problem. You're not sure whether it will turn out the way you thought it would turn out. Sometimes what the developer say in the brochure and the brochure and the plan and the final result may be
discrepancy.
There might be discrepancy, correct? Discrepancy. So and there are things that you never thought about. Because when you buy that time, it's under construction. You don't know what is. You cannot imagine. Very hard to imagine. When you buy a mature township, the benefit, of course, is you can see all these things are, and that's one reason why I bought Horizon Hills, because you have a developed township, right? You can really see, if you can visit the earlier phases to see how the occupancy is like. You can get a feel who are the residents, right? So that's a plus point of buying a place at Horizon Hills. I think the day someone told me, one of the Horizon Hills staff told me she stayed on the street. They got 7 nationalities on it, so I think that's very interesting. Her street has 7 nationalities. Yeah. So and I think the township has over 40 other nationalities. So I think these are the benefits of when you buy a mature area. You have an idea what it's like, right? So especially if you're own stay, right? Buy a mature area is or at least a completed project is better. You can immediately move in. That's the
you pay for certainty, right?
Yeah, you're paying for certainty, correct? You can immediately move in, and you can get a feel. You can see today what it's like. Yeah.
Agree with that. And speaking of that, so we heard earlier in the section that you actually also bought a house at Horizon Hills. So maybe you can share with us what are the 3 main factors that encourage you to buy in that area?
When I bought was in 2014. I bought a new launch. That time when I buy from Horizon Hills, I was buying new launch. And the reason was because the time you want to buy the terraces in the earlier phases is a little bit tough, so we bought the new launch, and I like the house in particular because the layout was very suitable for me. I already from day one I already know I want to whack the wall downstairs. So this particular house, right? I saw the floor plan. I said, oh, this house floor plan is very suitable for what I want. So that was one reason why I took the house, and of course it had a very nice north-south facing. I think when you have a north-south facing in the house, you realize that a lot of problems are solved, like sun, for example. There's no afternoon sun, there's no morning sun. I think that it makes the house very comfortable, right? And for me, of course, same thing like what I mentioned earlier, right? I have been living in Singapore for a number of years, and I think, better buy one landed freehold in JB. I think it's a good idea. I think, for space, and then weekend you can come. I do it all the time. I bring
retirement home maybe.
And then I want my son to learn to ride bicycle in a place where there's a lot of space. Kick football in a field where there's a lot of no one to fight the field with you. These are small problems in Singapore you never realize. But I mean in JB this all becomes possible. So that's the reason why I took this house. I don't know whether it's 3 reasons or more, but but that was the reason why.
Actually, there's definitely more. That
was and even my hobbies, right? I keep a lot of my hobbies in my house here in Johor. Right? My books. I play sort of games, miniatures, which I also keep in those miniatures are not Iron Man miniature, not those kind of stuff. But I keep it in my house in JB. There's no space for me to do that in Singapore. Right.
Yeah, it's like a collection area.
It's a collection area. I've sort of like a collection area in my house. Yeah.
That's interesting, really interesting. And also I think from what I can see, the Iskandar plan, there is also Edu City. I think there are these international sort of facilities. You got Edu City, and I think there's Putri Harbour as well. This entertainment area. Yeah.
Yeah, there are universities here. I think you can see a student population in this part of town, and surprisingly, a lot of the students are from Korea. Right, as I mentioned earlier, the Koreans are here for education because they want to learn English, and they want to learn English affordably. So in Malaysia, English is a second language in many places. So they and we have many private schools, international schools that cater for such students. So student population has been very good, and they are actually indirectly one of the biggest tenants in this area. So like I said, if I want to talk about Koreans, I can talk very long. Korean, we can have one video about Korean. I know so many Korean videos to tell you. So many stories to tell you about Korean. It's like it's very interesting. And in Korea now, we talk about Koreans, right? It's like a lot of Koreans are here and they open business. That's a very interesting thing. They come here, they not just buy a house, they also open business.
Yeah, that's true, because most of the Korean BBQ places that you go off is always usually the bosses are actually usually Koreans.
Yes, Korean BBQ opened by Korean. It's not Korean BBQ opened by Malaysian. It's Korean BBQ opened by Korean, and you can see the differences in the way they cook. Right, and
the quality is different.
Correct, the quality is different, and then there are things that I can tell you. There are fashion hubs coming up in JB from Korea. We have medical aesthetics also in the plan. A lot.
Yeah,
they're very enterprising.
All these things you're describing is actually township is actually very important, right? Township,
Yes. I think the one thing you see in Horizon Hills today, or in Bukit Indah in general, is that the township has developed very well. There's a lot of choice for shopping and food and groceries and entertainment. Right? You got cinema and nowadays you got bookstore and different variety of cuisine. Restaurants. Korean, Chinese, Japanese, and stuff. So I think this township development and of course at Horizon Hills you have a golf course, and the golf course is very popular. I think it's a top 3 in Malaysia or something like that. So So there's a lot of things to do. Right. Again, Korean come also because they love to play golf. Now I keep thinking about it.
It's true, I mean, how often your house is actually beside a golf course, right?
Yes, and I think
how often does that happen?
Even in this phase, the Westwood, right? They have houses which are facing the golf course. Some of the I think those bungalows and
I think the bungalow,
they are facing the golf course. Right. So you can see people playing golf, right? Which is one of the luxuries I think small luxuries. You never really thought you can. It's a luxury, but actually it's quite a nice thing to see golf course on the field and learn to play. I tell people, Malaysia, learn to play golf. It's the cheapest in the world. Cheapest. Really cheapest. You can you go to driving range, hit 100 ball, only pay 10 ringgit. You know that in Malaysia, you go driving range, hit 100 ball, only pay 10 ringgit.
Okay,
you know?
I have not tried that.
I brought a Korean guy here. He asked me how much, 10 ringgit. He was so shocked. He was 10 ringgit. He said in Korea it's 10 times the price.
Wow.
So it's like these are things which people should come and do, right? I always tell people in Singapore, you never play golf before, right? Come, I bring you JB, learn to play golf. Come, really it feel like very luxurious thing you don't want to learn, but actually you can do this.
It's very accessible in Johor right now.
Yeah. And the other thing I always tell you, learn to play golf, go and buy a car. Say you cannot. Singapore car very expensive, right? I bring you to Malaysia, buy free whole car. Wanna buy free whole car? You never buy before, right? Free whole car. Because the Singapore car is a 10-year lease, 10
years lease.
So I bring you to JB, come buy free whole car. So you can buy second-hand Myvi, maybe 20,000, 25,000 ringgit. Use it as a weekend car.
Best paid car,
and I think these are the value. You can buy a car here, and it becomes the priceless. You can drive the car to KL, drive the car to Malacca, drive to Desaru. These are priceless, freedom, priceless experience.
Yeah, speaking of Westwood, I want to shout out again to Horizon Hills Westwood. So they do have this Westwood, which is actually pretty much the latest launch, and I think they do have some ready moving units, and they do have a variety. They have a Ling cluster, bungalow, and it's actually next to, actually behind there's this really nice hilltops, the Sea Park. Yeah, so it's, do check it out. If you are interested, please do leave your comments below.
Sea Park is Sea Park is actually one of those government-built parks, which is very nice. I've been in a few times. It's like a jogging park.
So it's a reserve. It's a reserve.
Yeah, it's a reserve, and it's quite big. You can easily spend an hour plus. In Singapore, the equivalent would be like MacRitchie Reservoir or your East Coast Park. Of course, not as big as East Coast Park, but I mean it's a nature reserve where you can run and all that. So I think it's just behind Westwood. And this phase of Horizon Hills. And Horizon Hills, one thing, as I mentioned earlier, the houses are completing, I think, towards the end of this year. So, I mean, if you want to buy for own occupation, you can see the houses pretty soon.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good, because you can look at the house as it is, right? And you can actually choose the unit that you like. So guys, do remember, like, comment, and share, and please feel free to ask more questions, and we will select the random winner for the Horizon Hills 100 ringgit voucher, and as well as if you want interested, you can get Ryan's books as well. Yeah,
and if you want to see Ryan's house, I guess you can put the comments there and say, I want to see Ryan's house, and then ask Horizon Hills to bring the videos of the house.
We'll try to arrange that.
And talking about my book, I think I have this is my book, right? So if you want if you want a copy, I printed with full color, very high quality paper. It's fairly heavy. You carry 20 copies. It's quite a heavy. I think of a few kg, 4-5 kg to carry 20 books. So it's this sort of thing don't do cheap. I always like to do it nice a bit.
But most important is the information inside, guys. So please do like, comment, and share, and stand a chance to win free copies of Ryan's book. So please do that.
And a bit of self promotion. Okay. I think I'm pretty sure no one writes things about Iskandar Malaysia like I do. So I'm the only.
That's actually really true. That's why I was saying that property information isn't like cars and tax. It's so accessible in the net, but no one really talk about property. And for yourself, you talk very specific about Iskandar, and I think that's why you also have a very huge following. I think guys. So please feel free to ask more questions. I think Ryan can handle it. Okay, so we do have one burning question here. I think we of course we wouldn't want to mention names, but they did mention. Some investors say they have lost money as compared when they invest back then. Property prices has dropped and fluctuates. So what are your thoughts on that?
We have to look at property investment from a property cycle perspective. So there is an up cycle and there is a down cycle. So supply demand will push the direction of the cycle up or down. So what happens in Malaysia, if you look from 2005 to 2013, there was a very strong upcycle. So in fact, if you look at Horizon Hills in 2009, I think a terrace house, a super link house at the time was only about 500 500 plus thousand ringgit. And today, the price still holds very well. I mean, you cannot find a Superlink or terrace house in Horizon Hills at that price anymore. It's still about 800,000 plus minus, right? 900,000 plus minus in Horizon Hills. So because they bought at the right time. So timing is an important thing when you buy a property.
Right.
And the issue with many people from Singapore who bought in JB during 2013 onwards is that the time the property cycle start to turn, right? And many people made the mistake, including myself. I also bought property, right, where the price didn't go up, right, during that period. And we learn. I mean, we learn from these mistakes, right? What we did wrong, right? Because sometimes there was a fear of missing out. Everybody buy, so you also buy. No one is really looking at the fundamental or the price properly. So and if that happened to you, my advice is that you hold, right? Hold until the cycle recover. And when will the cycle recover? So if you see the first cycle, the up cycle was about 8 years, right? 2005 to 2013. So the down cycle also should roughly be about 8 years, right? To balance things out. So if you say 8 years, so we're talking about this year end or next year, right? Where the cycle should more or less end and property prices can start to recover again. And as we mentioned earlier, right, government has started to relax a lot of cooling measures and interest rates have fallen, new supply has dropped. I mean, today, if you want to buy in Johor, I think one very good news is there's less construction going on compared to 5 years ago. There are very few new developers building.
That's true.
And that is good news.
That's actually very true. That's
So,
actually true.
For example, you see high rise, right? We always say high rise in Iskandar is an oversupply, and that is true, right? But if currently there's an oversupply, but if you look at new construction of high rise, there's actually very minimal.
Very minimal.
Correct, and that is very healthy for the property market, because once you stop new supply, you give a chance to the existing supply to recover and to catch up and occupy and go up again. Then only the market can recover again. So that's good news. So we see in Malaysia, at least there is no indiscriminate building. Build, oversupply still build, right? Right. So it's very good. Even if you look at landed house, right? In this area, there are only a few developers building landed house. Right, and because a lot of it is to cater for own stay, people buying for own use, because Malaysians still buy landed house generally for own stay. So in that sense, that's what I have to say now, right? From price perspective, don't be so stressed. Another couple of years. Yeah, unfortunately, we all pay a higher price, so we take longer to recover, right? Myself included, as I said, but don't stress. Good news is new supply is limited and controlled, and that means that cycle can recover. The up cycle can come again in the future.
That's great. That's actually really some positive news. So a little bit into investment, I think we do have some friends, even myself, who have invested in property, but mentioning that finding tenants can be very tough at times. So any advice on that?
Yeah, so of course, if the property market is bad, the next best thing you can do is to find a tenant. Okay, so but then you say find a tenant difficult. Generally, yes and no. Yes and no is because number one, there's an oversupply, so there's more house than there is tenant. Okay, so if you want to find a tenant, your house must be different, better than the rest. Okay, so how to be better than the rest? When you buy a house, you have to make it attractive. First impression is important. So when the tenant come, they like the house and they will want to rent. Because now what happens, a lot of owners, they buy the house, they collect the key, then they don't know what to do, right? So the first thing they do is they call an agent, then they give the key to the agent. Agent, please help me. Please help me find tenant. So the agent say, okay, I try. But then the house is empty, no light, no fan, no curtain. Then in landed house, sometimes no kitchen, right? And then the tenant come, how he want to rent, right? And then in today's market, a lot of Korean tenant, right? So you ask the Korean, you tell the Korean, you go and furnish a house yourself. The Korean cannot speak English, cannot speak Malay, cannot speak Chinese. How are they going to find? How are they going to rent a tenant house for you? And then you say, never mind, Korean. If you rent a house, I will do for you. But the Korean don't trust you, he said, how he know that you do nice? How do you do properly?
So they
it's very important
for
to
fully furnished sort of thing, right?
Yeah, so whether partial furnished or fully furnished, your house has to be somewhat ready for the tenant to stay.
Understand.
So you cannot wait for the tenant to come, then only you do. They're too late already.
That's true.
Too late. He won't even come to see your house, the tenant.
That's
especially
true.
All these foreigners. If your house empty, they don't even see. So a lot of owners tell me, I cannot find tenant. The first question I ask is, have you done up your house? If your house not done up, then no need to talk. No tenant come on. So once your house is done up, then you can find a tenant. So my company, FYI Design, what we do is we help owners as a one-stop shop to fit out the house, right? Affordable cost, but nice design, so that you can attract tenants, right?
Interesting.
And we work with a lot
right.
of property agents. Yeah, we work with property agents. We help the property agents to fit. We give the photos. So my designer will take the photo, give to the agent, and let the agent go and market. Because agent also want a nice house to do marketing. They don't want to take empty house to do marketing, right? So a lot of agents work with us for this purpose, and we have had good results. We helped over 200 owners.
Right.
In the past couple of years to find tenant, right? In a market that they otherwise cannot find tenant. So again, I tell the owner, you spend 1 million ringgit to buy the property, the last 30,000, 50,000 you don't want to spend, I think is very stupid. You pay 95% of the price, the last 5% to make your property complete, you don't want to do, right? And then because of that, your property got no result. Then I think it's very stupid, because you already hundreds of thousands you buy, right? And then you don't want to do this. It's like you buy the horse, don't want to buy the saddle. I have this saying. You buy the horse, don't want to buy the saddle. You buy the car, don't want to buy steering wheel. You buy the car, don't want to put petrol. It's like how you expect result.
Yep.
In that case, yeah.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree, because when I was also working for a while in Australia, I think people are really accustomed to fully furnished. I don't really see people selling bare units, and I think I do agree with you. Different sort of tenants have different sort of cultures, right?
Correct. So in Korea and in China also, in many times people come to rent house is fully furnished one, and even fully furnished also, we got many standards. Nice fully furnished and simple fully furnished. Of course, we try to do as nice as possible.
Right.
So when they come to Malaysia, and then we still have this old culture. Even in Singapore, we still have this old culture where we only partially furnish. Singapore not so bad, because Singapore is a tighter market. But Malaysia, if you don't, the standard today is fully furnished. Otherwise, you.
So can you advise? So for example, if a lender, let's say a link house, right? I mean, in particular, let's say Horizon Hills, how much investment of interiors you expect? I mean, an estimated amount.
I mean, for typical terrace house, we are talking about anywhere from, partial, you're talking about 40,000 and above.
So the
fully
built-ins and
furnished, you're
carpentry
talking
stuff.
about, yeah, which is talking about the kitchen and the aircon and the lights and the curtains, right, and the fan, the basics, right. Then when you go to fully furnished, it's easily you will cross 60 to 80,000. It depends on the size of the kitchens and how many aircons and how many rooms you do, right.
Right.
There are ways to do where you don't spend so much. Of course, in landed house you have to spend more, because a lot of carpentry work is involved.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the house is bigger, because the house is bigger. But that's the thing about landed house, right? But you have to do it, otherwise you have a challenge. But again, go back to basics, right? Which I think a lot of people know. If you buy a landed house, you're talking about capital appreciation, right? Rental as a percentage of the yield is always lower in the landed house, but capital appreciation for a landed house is always better. So if you find a tenant for a landed house, it's just to cover some costs, right? I think today's market, you're very difficult to say positive cash flow for a landed house, but landed house always has a better capital appreciation, right? You find a tenant so that you don't so stress. You feel that your house is occupied, and then the street is full of people. Then only the market price can go up, because you cannot find any empty house. If you live empty, your friend live empty, your neighbor live empty, then no one will want to stay, because the whole street is empty. So as the owner, you must do your responsibility is to make sure the house is productive. Whether you stay as a weekend house or a tenant stay, right? Then the street looks, the area looks good, looks occupied, prices can go up. Nobody want to stay in a place where all empty one, right? Price cannot go up. Price cannot go up if the whole place is empty one. So we all as an owner have to do our part to raise this. Whether you own a landed house or apartment, this is the same logic, right? Don't leave it empty, right? That's what.
That's true. That's really true. I think this also applies across whether you're staying on your own or own occupancy or even investment. I think that really makes sense, and I do agree with you. I think landed houses also have a sort of like stronger emotional attachment, I guess. People really do go there to for their stay. Yeah, I do agree.
For landed house, don't say cannot find. You can still find tenant. We have done it a few times. We had a house in also in this area. We rented for 4,000 terrace house. I rented for 4,000 to a Korean family.
Wow.
Because because some people want a landed house space. You cannot assume that they always want apartment. Foreigners, they also want landed.
All right, so yeah, shout out to Ryan. So yeah, he is, I mean, he and his company and his crew, it is a one-stop solution. So you can go over for property consultation, you know, you can go for interior design consultation. Yeah, it is, I think he's one of the best person to talk to if you do want to invest in Iskandar. So yeah, any last final message to our listeners? Before we close
I like
off
to
this
think
section?
of myself. I like to think of myself as a solution provider, right? If you bought an Iskandar or want to buy Iskandar, we can tell you what are the solutions and options for you, right? As whether you buy or haven't buy it, right? And that's what basically my company does. And of course, like as per what this video today is, right? We want to cover the important things about why buy a landed home. And what are the benefits of buying a landed home? So and especially for this video, if you are from Singapore or you're working in Singapore or Singaporean, I think there are some very clear benefits to buying a landed house, a freehold landed house in Malaysia, right? And to me, it's a freehold, freehold landed house for 300,000 Sing. I think in many ways, it's so obvious the logic.
All right, guys. So yeah,
I don't know how else to sell to you. This 300,000 Sing for a landed house or a freehold landed. I don't know how to say it. I don't. Especially when in the future there's MRT coming, high speed rail coming. I don't know what else to say. It's very obvious. Sometimes it's very obvious like that.
It is. Yeah.
You don't think of an investment. You either treat it as a retirement home. Or worst case, you can give a freehold landed house to your children next time. I mean, you think about it that way, I think it becomes very palatable. Think like how the China people buy and the Korean people buy. They buy a house, sometimes it's not for themselves, it's for their children or for the future.
That's actually really true. Sounds like a fair deal.
Yeah. So I said it's very hard to get it otherwise elsewhere in many parts of the world. I mean, and somewhere you can visit every weekend, if you want.
All right, guys. Yeah, so thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for those who like and comment and share. We do appreciate your questions, and we do appreciate for you guys, coming in to join us and to be educated about property. That's so cool. Please do stay tuned for next following week our episode where we will still talk to Ryan and probably talk a few other topics. So yeah, please do hit us up. DM us, comment, and we'll probably try our best to address this question in Chinese for our Chinese listeners.
Yeah, we'll do one in Mandarin, although our Mandarin not so good. But you can ask about my Korean makeup, and I'll talk more about Korean conversation if you want. And then ask difficult questions. It's okay. If you want to see my house, also can. We can see my house, and then I think it's
we will try our best.
It's very interesting. I think it's very interesting. Let's be very open and I think hear more experience about how to live in Johor.
That's really great. Yeah, so that's it, guys. So that's all you hear from us, and please do stay tuned, and we will catch you in the next episode. Bye. Thanks for your time here, Ryan. Thanks for your time.
Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron.
Bye, everyone.